in portions. So the stages were 2 times. And here we have to talk about why the revelation has to come 2 times, or descend 2 times. Why it's not revealed 1 time to the Prophet and that's it. Here we have some reasons. First of all, to strengthen the heart of the Prophet by addressing him continuously and whenever the need of guidance arose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, God says, those who reject the faith say, why isn't the Quran revealed to him all at once? Then God explains, thus it is revealed, or is it revealed, that we may strengthen your heart thereby, and we have rehearsed it to you in slow and well-arranged stages gradually. So the first reason is to strengthen the heart of the Prophet, to continuously talk to the Prophet, to continuously make the Prophet feel that God is overwatching him in all his life of his 23 years of prophet. Whenever there is a thing and the Prophet needs something, God speaks to him, reveal to him. So that's to make him feel that he's not alone. This is number 1. Number 2 is to gradually implement the laws of Allah, or the laws of God. And that we will see in the prohibition of the wine. As you know, all the Muslim believers, they do not drink wine or alcohol at all. But at the time of the Prophet, it was their official drink. There. So how to make someone withdraw and leave his habit? So it came that was the wisdom of God behind revealing the Quran, or making the revelation in steps and stages. So he will make the believers leave this habit gradually. If he comes first time, and say, leave it, do not drink alcohol, they will even maybe reject the whole faith on the first time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed them. Let me just check it. When he said, they ask you about wine and gamble. That was the first verse to be revealed about wine and alcohol. They ask you about wine and gambling. Say, and them is great sin, and yet some benefit for people. So here, there is a great sin in it, but yet there is some benefit, because some people, they make money by selling it. So he doesn't come directly, the order doesn't come directly, leave it. So it's balanced order. And then, but their sin is greater. The sin is greater than the benefit. And they ask you about what they should spend, say, the excess. In the second revelation, God says, Satan only, here the second stage of prohibition, Satan only wants to cause between you animosity and hatred through intoxicant and gambling, and to avert you from the remembrance of Allah and from the prayer. So will you not desist? Will you not stop? That's in chapter 5, verse 9. So first of all, he says, there is a benefit and there is a sin. But the sin is greater than the benefit. And then in a later stage, he says, Satan wants to create animosity and hatred between you by drinking this. When you drink this, your mind and are veiled. You are not aware what you are doing. So you may commit all kind of sin while you're under alcohol. And, so then God says, will you stop? Will you not stop? If you are a true believer, you should stop. Then people stop. So the second thing is to implement gradually the laws of God. The third thing is that it was very hard on the Prophet, very hard experience, the revelation itself. When the angel came to him, the experience of the receiving the revelation was very hard. Sometimes it was, according to what some of the tradition of the Prophet is saying, he says it would come to me like the ringing of a bell. The ringing of a bell, like when you hear someone, there's bell ringing around near to his ears, like that, very strong, and he would like very, very strong that he cannot bear it. So in order to make it easy for him, imagine the whole Quran one time read in this way, the Prophet cannot stand it. So out of consideration to the Prophet and that's difficult experience while he's receiving. the revelation. After that, the third one, or the fourth one, sorry, to make understanding and application and memorization of the revelation easier to the believer. If it comes in portions, it comes down in portions, for people easy to understand, easy to apply, and easy to memorize. The beginning of the revelation, there is a very long hadith tradition. Hadith means tradition or saying of the Prophet or his companions that is relating all the story of the beginning of the revelation. I tried to read a few passages of it. The hadith or this tradition is you can find it in Bukhari, volume 1, number 3. The Sayyida Aisha is the mother of the faithful, the wife of the Prophet, says that the commencement of the divine inspiration to Allah's apostle was in the form of good dreams which came like bright daylight. First of all, he used to have some dreams, visions. That's the first kind of revelation. We're talking about inspiration. And then he used to go in a seclusion to the cave of Hira. He used to go there in order to worship, in order to meditate, where he used to worship God continuously for many days. And then we go to the second passage. The angel came here when it starts the revelation. The angel came to him and asked him to read. The Prophet replied, I do not know how to read. Then the Prophet added, the angel caught me forcibly and pressed me so hard that I could not bear it anymore. He then released me and again asked me to read. And I replied, I do not know how to read. Thereupon, he caught me again and pressed me in a second time till I could not bear it anymore. He released me again and asked me to read. But again I replied, I do not know how to read, or what shall I read? Thereupon he called me for the third time and pressed me and then released me and said, read in the name of your Lord who created man from a cloth. Read and your Lord is the most beautiful. So that was the first revelation, the first 5 verses to be revealed to the Prophet, and that was the situation. The angel came to him and he called him forcibly like that. That's how it started, and the revelation came to the Prophet, as we were saying in another hadith. Here, one of the companions of the Prophet asked the Prophet how the revelation comes to you. How it comes to you? How do you feel the revelation? Then the Prophet ﷺ said, sometimes it is revealed like the ringing of a bell. This form of an inspiration is the hardest of all, and then the state passes off after I grasp what is inspired. Sometimes the angel comes in the form of a man and talks to me, and I grasp whatever he says. The preservation and transmission of the Quran. There were 2 stages for this preservation of the book of the Quran. The first of all, when it's revealed to the Prophet, the angel comes to the Prophet and he revealed it, and the Prophet repeats it until he memorizes it. This is number 1. And immediately he, after the revelation passes, then he called for a scribe, one of his scribes, to write down what has been revealed. The Prophet used to memorize, used to commit the revelation to memorization. The Prophet used to encourage his companions to memorize, and there's one tradition of the Prophet, very famous, which is, the best among you is those who learn the Quran and teach it. So the Prophet even used to encourage his people, encourage the companions to memorize the Quran. The Prophet used to send teachers to the new communities who embrace Islam. At the beginning of the prophethood of the Prophet, he met with a group of people coming from Medina, the second city, and at that time, after Mecca where the Prophet resides, and they came there and they announced they want to become Muslims, and the Prophet talked to them, and then he sent with them one of the companions as a teacher to teach them Islam, what is Islam, and to teach them the Quran. So the Prophet used to memorize it, used to encourage his companions, used to send teachers to teach the people the Islam, and as well as you know now, Muslim, they have 5 times daily prayer, in which they recite it by heart. We don't use the book while we are reciting, we just stand and recite from the memory. So we recite the Quran 5 times a day, by heart. Yearly revision during Ramadan. The Prophet not only used to commit it to memorization, he also used to review the Quran, study the Quran with the angel every year in Ramadan. Ramadan is the 9th month of the Arabic lunar year. Every year in Ramadan, the angel comes and he studies with the Prophet the Quran. And in the last year, when before the Prophet died, that last Ramadan of the life of the Prophet studied or reviewed the Quran twice with the angel. So the first way of preservation of the Quran was the memorization. The second way by writing in written form. And as I said, in Mecca, whenever the revelation ends, the Prophet called for one of his scribes, and the most famous between them was called Zayd ibn Thabit. He was a young man, but very trustworthy man, that the Prophet used to call him and tell him to come and bring a sheet or something to write on the revelation that can be sent. And finally, when and at the same time, when the revelation comes and it's written, the Prophet used to instruct his scribes to say, this portion, you should put it behind the other portion that had been revealed to me at that time. So the Prophet himself used to instruct the scribe where to arrange, where to put the revelations. Collection of the Quran, we will come to the collection of the Quran. The Quran have been collected 3 times. Collected 3 times means that. The first time, as I said, the Prophet used to tell his scribes to write the revelation and then place it in its order. That's what the first. But it was not compiled, it was not gathered in only one book. It was written over sheets of paper, skins of animals, rips of tree of palms, many things. So it was scattered, but collected together, but not in one book. The Prophet died, and it was the same. That's the state of the Quran. Okay. Then it came the need at the time of the first caliph, the first successor of the Prophet, when it was a great battle called the Battle of Yamama, and at that time, many of the companions, over 70 companions, were killed in that battle. And the second companion of the Prophet, the second most prominent companion of the Prophet, came to the caliph and he asked him, and he told him about that great loss. He says that many of the reciters and the memorizer of the Quran were killed in the battle. So shall we do something in order to preserve the Quran, not to be lost? Shouldn't we now start collecting the Quran in one book? So the companion said, the Caliph said, how can I do something the Prophet himself did not do? Then the other companions keep on insisting and convincing, talking to the Caliph until Allah opened his chest to that opinion, until he felt relief that this opinion is the right opinion. Then the Caliph called Zayd, the one we were talking about, the young man, trustworthy man, and said, Zayd, we trust you and we have no doubt about you or in you. Then I would like you to go and collect the Quran from the people, from their people who memorize it and people who wrote it, and collect that in one book. Zayd at that time says, if the Caliph asked me to move a mountain from its place to another place, wouldn't be that harder than collecting the Quran, because the mission was very hard on him, that the Prophet himself did not do it, and he was feeling the great responsibility of collecting the Book of God. And we used a very good methodology, which is he used first the one he has a revelation from God, the one who writes anything, has to have present. You have to prove by 2 witnesses that he was present at the time when the revelation came to the Prophet, and he has to prove that he has wrote it or memorized it and under the Prophet. The Prophet approved his memorization. So Zayd did not leave, he put this condition number one, you have to get two witnesses that they to testify that you have been memorizing and you have wrote this piece of revelation while the Prophet was present, in the presence of the Prophet, and the Prophet has to be approving it. So on that sense, on that process, the Prophet, the Zayd started collecting